Welcome to Intelexx, a place for entrepreneurs podcast. This is season 3, episode 4, and we are going to be discussing an influential book that is also a must read. We are going to be talking about Curtis 50 Cent Jackson's Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter. Now we're going to be doing things a little bit different this time around. So I'm going to give a short summary, and then I'm going to let the book play out so that you can hear for yourself the interesting things that he talks about in this, okay? So, first things first, he says that fear nothing and you shall succeed. So he gets personal about his journey to success, how he overcame tragedy, loss, and how he's thriving now, a business owner, multiple business owner, and also an executive. So, he doesn't just do music. He's also an author now, and he also does, he's been in a lot of different movies and has his hand in acting. And he's also a producer and an executive producer. And all of that is certain things that he touches on in the book. All right, so one thing that he touches on is how he kind of ignores social media. So he routinely uses social media to connect directly with the public. If someone poses a picture of his product, he'll repost it on his page. And he's training his fan base to see the incentive in supporting his brand. He managed to create an online movement without spending a single dollar. So something that he said was, quote, "The internet is making the gatekeepers much less relevant. For instance, back in the day, if you had a great idea for a film, you had to pitch it to a studio because you needed access to their money and promotional potential. The studio was the gatekeeper that confirmed whether your idea had any value. Today," he added, "you can literally shoot the movie with a smartphone, edit it on your laptop, and distribute it yourself on YouTube. If your work is good enough and speaks to your audience, people will watch it. It might take time, but eventually the word will spread that you've made something of value." All right, so that's just a little social media hack. And nowadays, that is very true. A lot of people have been creating a lot of things off of their phone and off of their laptop. You don't really need expensive materials to get your point across, to get it out there. It is going to happen one way or another, and it's all about your consistency, your relentlessness, and all of those factors for you to actually have something that is of value that you can add, right? Because people will pay or buy the experience, not necessarily the product or the service or the business that you have. So if you give them something to look forward to, they're going to keep coming back for more, right? So just a little FYI. He also talks about how he would take an unpaid internship if it teaches him what he wants. Now, of course, he's at a place where he's making money in his sleep, so he doesn't necessarily need it. But I believe that money only enhances who you actually are. So whether or not he has a lump sum of money or whether he's struggling like majority of America or wherever you're from, he would probably do the same thing. And it's good. A lot of people have said this, those who are in business, those who are successful, to serve your way to the top, because what you are willing to do for free, you will eventually get paid for, but it takes time to get to that point. He talked about how internships seem to get a bad rap. Many young people complain internships as exploitive, and some even want to make unpaid internships illegal, which I think personally is ridiculous, because you can learn a lot whether you get paid or not. You should always be learning something, right? So he said that's short-sighted. If you're interning in an industry that you're passionate about, you're not being exploited. It's just up to you to get the most out of the experience. An internship is an open door. Once you're in, you must take it upon yourself to check out every room in the house. All right. He also talks about not trusting a handshake deal where everything needs to be in writing. Everyone seems to love each other in the beginning, but then, whatever you agree upon might feel right now, but then if jealousy or envy creeps in, you'll be surprised by the person's true nature. So he said, protect yourself and put it on paper. He also listens for what people want, right? So he said, that, basically, question is posed like, which rappers of the past are still present today, are still relevant today? 50 Cent was named, Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, Method Man, Snoop. And why are they so relevant? Obviously, times change and no musician lasts forever. Method Man transitioned into acting, Cube into acting, and the Big Three basketball league, and Dre hit the jackpot with Beats and Apple. Simply put, they're smart and humble enough to realize the public can never be wrong. So 50 said, when people don't respond to what you give them, they're telling you they've moved on, loud and clear. If you don't hear them, then you're just not listening. He said, if one generation knew me as a rapper, there's going to be another that knows me as a TV mogul, but only because I'm willing to change with the times and audience. And I think this is a very important aspect when it comes to being an entrepreneur, an artist in general, or a business owner in general. You have to keep up with the times. Like, a lot of businesses lately, due to COVID and other reasons, have shut down because they're still back in the times when they were created, right? So you see like Sears closed down, a lot of 7-Elevens and a lot of other businesses have closed down because they're not keeping up with the times. And you see something that I see with Walmart, with their pricing, how they get people in. Also, Wawa, for those of you who are in the areas that have Wawa, they have different systems where you can self-checkout now, and you can order on the, digitally, or you can do it on the app. Walmart has an app. They've kept up with the times technologically, and also with the products that they have. They offer a lot. They bring people in. They have advertisements, and not every business has advertisements. Like Lamborghini, they don't market, but they have a lot of business, right? So it all depends on whatever audience and whatever target market that you're actually trying to focus in on. Depends on your execution, right? But it's very important to listen to your audience, because they're the ones that are going to be buying your service or your product or whatever business that you have. If they're going to be investing in you, then they need to have a say with what's going on. So like 50 said, he might have started off as a musician for one generation. Another generation will know him as a TV mogul. Someone else might know him as an executive producer. But it's all about how flexible you're willing to be and how much you're willing to go outside of your comfort zone in order to expand your experience, right? And a business owner has to have multifaceted hats. You're not just doing one thing, especially in the beginning. If you don't have a team yet, you are the team, so you have to do everything. So you have to be willing to be flexible in those areas. All right. One thing is that he loves to read. He's an avid reader, right? He talks about how people look up Google and they think that is the end all be all. Like, okay, I looked it up, I researched it, and that was the end of it. When that's not the case, you didn't even scratch the surface, right? So, he said that saying a few clicks and scrolls won't cut it. You need to learn multiple examples and scenarios before certain principles start to sink in. He said after you finish his book, you might only take a few principles with you, even just one, and that's fine. That was the case when I read Robert's 48 Laws of Power. Ask me today what the book was about, and all I can really tell you is, as the student, never outshine the master, right? So the goal is to just get something from what you're reading. And a lot of times, in order to really get it within, read it multiple times, go back and look at the things that stick out to you, words that stick out, repetitiveness in there, what it actually means, write it down. Create a study guide for yourself for those books. Have a summary so that if somebody asks you what's going on in those books, you'll be able to give them a breakdown to where you won't have to look at your notes. You'll know it for yourself. And, the way you'll explain it is based on how you take it in, how you study, right? So just keep that in mind. He also developed fearlessness out of his tough childhood. So for many of you who don't know his background, he kind of grew up in a rough neighborhood, around a lot of chaos and, drug dealing and guns and, getting shot multiple times. And so that relentlessness, that resilience, and that fearlessness definitely has to kick in to go through things like that, especially as a young person, right? So he said, life isn't fair. That person with the loudest voice and their hands always up is going to get promoted before you. They're going to get a raise before you. Although they're better trained and prepared, you wouldn't let the world see although you're better trained and prepared, you wouldn't let the world see because you're feeling afraid. Fear of failure and rejection is stopping you from getting the most out of your work. Don't let it happen. He says, I want to show you that fearlessness is a strength you can develop too, a muscle you can build, hopefully without having to experience the trauma that made mine so jacked. You don't have to lose your mother or survive getting shot 9 times to develop the belief that you can survive anything that happens to you. That's the only thing you can't overcome, is never taking risks in the first place. All right, so on the other side of the coin is the yes man, who's always raising his hand. He's doing it because he's fearful that someone else is going to get props before he does. So even if he doesn't know the answer, he's going to bluff his way to it. You also don't want to be that man, right? So if you know your stuff, even if you're not completely confident in how you are or your delivery, or you think somebody might do it better than you, who cares? If you know what you're talking about, let it be known that you know what you're talking about. Because 9 times out of 10, there's going to be more people that don't know or that are hesitant, and you stepping up, you might get what you're looking for just by putting yourself out there, as opposed to hiding behind fear and cowardice because you're thinking about what other people think or how you're going to be received, when you should be focused on a mission, which is to get what you have to other people. All right. So even though, the title of the book is Work Harder, Work Smarter, 50 Cent definitely works harder than he plays. So he said, his attitude towards his career is whistle while you work. So every 18-hour day on the set sounds fun. Every all-nighter in the studio seems joyful. Every 4 a.m. wake-up call comes as a blessing, the signal that he's getting another chance to do something that he loves. Now, before I continue, I want to pose this question. What is it that you love? Do you love what you do? Are you doing what you love? Do you wake up with it on your mind? Or do you go to sleep with okay, when I get up, I get to do what I love? Because if that answer is no right now, then you need to figure out what it is that you love so that you can be more inspired to get up and work on those things. Because if you're not being inspired by what you love, you're not going to have the right attitude when it comes to anything, because you're not doing what you love. You're not going to understand people that do what they love. You're going to be in the miserable crowd, the Debbie Downers and the sorry Stevens, and And nobody likes to be around that kind of negative energy unless they are a part of that negative energy. So keep in mind what it is that you love. And if it's something that you grew away from, go back and find that. If it's something that you still need to seek within yourself, go do that. Take some time out for you, because a lot of these jobs that you work for, they have it set up to where you're spending all of your time building up somebody else's vision and you're losing sight of your own. So don't lose sight of your vision. Do what you love and manifest it. Allow it to grow. Build on it. You know, there's going to be days, of course, when you're not going to feel like doing it. That's where the discipline comes in to do it anyway, right? There are plenty of days when I don't feel like doing certain things for myself, for my business, but then I think about the overall picture. What is it that I want? I want to be where I'm at now, 10 years from now? No, ma'am. No, sir. So I'm going to do what I have to do to get to that next level. And if that means I have to wake up earlier or go to bed later or do a bunch of work within a short time frame or do 18 hours, 20 hours, you know, just honing in on my craft and perfecting my craft and doing what I love, in the end, it'll be worth it. Because if you do the hard stuff now, you'll enjoy the easy stuff later, right? It'll be easier later if you do the hard stuff now. And if you do the easy stuff now, it'll be harder later. So the choice is really up to you. He said, I get bored easily when I'm not working. I have places I like to go on vacation, but the first thing I pack isn't my swimsuit. It's always my computer. I know after the first day of jet skiing or hanging out in the spa, I'm going to be ready to get back to work. So despite not being the most talented, best looking, or most experienced, how do I keep finding success in so many different fields? Great question. He said, I hustle as hard as I can, day in and day out. Plenty of people might be willing to out-rap, outperform, or even outsmart me, but no one is ever going to outwork me. All right, so one thing that he knows is the race never ends, right? Give yourself the opportunity to identify something different. You're going to find things you think you can't live without are actually standing between the current you and the best you. When you break those habits, you'll be surprised by how much more you can accomplish in life and put everything you have into your work. There's no happily ever after. I'll repeat that. There's no happily ever after. One more time. There is no happily ever after. No matter how many records I sell, cases of liquor I move, and hit TV shows I create and executive produce, there's never going to be a moment where I say, okay, this is the end of the road. I finally made it. And then take my foot off the pedal. Life is constantly moving. Change is constantly happening. Nothing ever stops. So even when you're successful, you still have to keep going. Nobody ever makes it. Because once you accomplish one thing, then it's on to the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And then to the point where it's like, okay, well, what else can I do? What's the next thing? Learning something new, getting yourself out of that comfort zone. All of these things, contribute to the race constantly moving. And even within the percentage of successful people, there are some who outwork the others. So if somebody who is like low class, middle class, and they see somebody that's in the upper class or wealthy or rich or whatever, and they might think, oh, they're doing well because they have maybe 10 million, 20 million. There's other people that have 100 million. There's other people with billions. Everybody's on different levels, but you can be comfortable in any level. You can settle at any level, even if you're rich or wealthy. That doesn't make you successful because you got there. But when you got there, you just stopped. That's not a successful person. A successful person constantly is moving, constantly is growing, evolving, doing different things, going outside of the box. So many different ways to be successful, especially nowadays, especially with the younger generation. Everything is technology based, Airbnbs, having different apps, and so many different things that you can do to be successful. you don't necessarily have to be good anymore, from what I have seen and heard from different people, different interviews and things of that matter. You know, a lot of people are just doing the bare minimum and just a little bit above that, and they're being considered successful. You know, and that's unfortunate, because those who are truly successful have gone above and beyond what they thought was possible. They continuously push themselves to the limit all the time, finding different ways to stay up with the times and not lose themselves. And that's harder to do than it is to actually stay. You know, a lot of people who are successful and have been successful and continue to work and do so much have been consistent, have been disciplined, fearless, bold. They make those risks and take those risks, and you know, they're always learning. Life is a school, right? There's always a lesson in everything, the good and the bad. So keep that in mind, okay? So at the end of the day, you can bet on a lot of games, ideas, and even people, but the only sure thing you can always count on 100% of the time is yourself, right? So believe in yourself and trust the process. Everybody's process looks different. Trust yours. If you don't let the fear of failure hold you back, you'll find yourself taking massive actions and risks you never thought you would before. Chances are, if you remain humble and learn from your mistakes, the world will always show you where to go next. All right, so now we're gonna play a little snippet from the book. And if you are interested in getting a copy, there is an audio book on YouTube. There's also an option for you to go on Amazon. You can Google the book and there's many different options that pop up. All right, so we are going to play a little bit of the song. Not the song. We're gonna play a little bit of the book, and then we're gonna close out. I hope you all got something from this. It's definitely a great book. I would recommend it for anybody who wants to just be better from where they are to where they want to be, and just some great tips to help you along that process.
One morning I took a peek out my grandmother's window and saw someone I didn't recognize in front of her house. To me, he was trying too hard to look inconspicuous and blend in. I was admittedly in a very paranoid state, so it could have been nothing. But paranoia sharpens your senses, the way an antelope's acute sense of smell could identify a lion from hundreds of yards away. Maybe I was sensing my own predator. I canceled the jog I had planned for the day. And the next day, too, after I saw the same guy lurking on the street again. By this point, I was experiencing a lot of confusion. Were my heightened senses tipping me off to unseen danger? Or was I imagining menace that wasn't really there? I couldn't tell. All I knew for sure was the fear was starting to consume me. I decided that if I stayed in the house and didn't follow the rehab plan, I had already lost. When fear interrupts your routine or makes you rethink it in any way, it's gotten its hooks deep into you and will hold you back forever. Cowards die many times before their death, wrote Shakespeare. The valiant never taste of death but once. I wasn't trying to go out like a coward. The best way to get past a fear that's holding you back is first to acknowledge it and then come up with a plan to get past it. So that's what I did. First, I accepted that I was afraid. Then I gathered my most trusted friends in my grandmother's living room and explained that I was going to need them to go jogging with me the next morning. No doubt, everyone said, we'll be back tomorrow. When the next morning rolled around, however, only one of them actually showed up, my guy Halim. I don't think the rest of them were scared of any potential drama. They had proved themselves in that round too many times already. I think they were more afraid of the idea of having to do some cardio in the morning. That wasn't something they were comfortable with. I decided to head out with just Halim, even though he wasn't the ideal candidate. He was in even worse shape than I was. More important, I had serious doubts about how he might react if a threat did present itself. In a crew full of dudes looking for any excuse to let one fly, Halim's nature was to look for a way to avoid confrontation. As for Halim, since he was out of shape, I gave him a bike so he can keep pace alongside me. As for my second concern, I opted to take matters into my own hands, literally. I took a small pistol, put it in my good hand, and wrapped it with medical bandages. Everyone knew me as a boxer, so to the casual eye, it just looked like I busted my hand in the ring. I used so many bandages that the gun disappeared into my cast, almost completely, with only the barrel peeking out. I told Halim to pedal alongside me and keep an eye out for anyone who looked like they wanted to jump out of the bushes and take a shot at me. All he had to do was sound the alarm, and I'd take it from there. Halim and I performed this routine every morning. I was committed to getting my strength and stamina back. I wasn't going to let a threat, perceived or actual, get between me and my goals. Was I actually scared on any of those runs? At first I was, but I took comfort in knowing that each time I set out, I'd done all I could do to take the necessary precautions. I had both a lookout and protection, which was at least more than what I had when I'd been shot. It was an extension of what a law understanding had taught me. Instead of being afraid of getting hit and just giving up, do the things that make you a difficult target. In the ring, it meant staying on my toes, moving constantly and keeping my hands up. On the street, it meant jogging with a bodyguard and a pistol up my sleeve. No one ended up challenging me, and I was able to get myself back into shape through those runs. But looking back, I can see that I didn't have to be so aggressive in confronting my fears. I didn't have to run through the same streets where I'd just been shot. I could have just as easily gone to a local gym or even put a treadmill in my grandmother's basement. I was just so uncomfortable that anything less than jogging outside in full view of the whole neighborhood would have felt like a complete concession to fear, a concession I wasn't willing to make. Today, I'm a little less likely to be so aggressive in confronting things head on. In fact, if I'm being completely honest, there are still some fears I barely confronted at all.
All right, so we are going to stop there. That's literally a snippet of the book, but if you want a copy, you don't necessarily have to buy a copy. If you are an audio person and you want the audio book, go on YouTube. There's a few different versions of it. You can also Google it again and get your copy as well. If you want to go through Mr. 50 Cent himself, I'm pretty sure you can go on his social media site. I'm pretty sure it has his information on there. I don't have that information on me, but if you go on his social media pages, there should be a website there. Should be an option for you to purchase, but again, it's on Amazon and other places as well. It's also, if you go in the stores, you know, it's in Walmart. I've seen it there. Pretty sure it's in Barnes and Noble. So there's different places that you can get it from. All right, so, you know, we always close with our gem, you know, one gem for you to take away. So I have this book called The Mini Book of Mindfulness, and I am going to touch on a little piece that's in here. All right, so it's a quote by Thich Nhat Hanh: "No mud, no lotus. To be mindful means to be aware. It's the energy that knows what is happening in the present moment," right? The present has a lot behind it. You know, when you are looking behind, that's behind you. When you're looking ahead, that's in front of you. And a lot of times when we associate the past, it's more so like depression when you're looking back, and anxiety is when you're looking forward. But when you're present and you're actually aware of what's going on in the moment, then you can actually be present, right? You can actually be in that moment. So I feel like this is a good place to talk about how to respond mindfully as opposed to reacting. He talked about fear and how he was basically on the edge every time, waiting for somebody to react, and how he was on go the whole time. But when you confront your fear and you prepare for it and you're mindful of what's going on and you're in the present, then you can plan. And of course, things don't go according to plan 100% of the time. But if you prepare, then, you know, it's more than likely that you'll be successful at whatever it is that you plan to do, because you've taken the time out to prepare. Okay, this is what I'm afraid of. This is what needs to happen. This is how I can break that fear, or how I can break that cowardice and, you know, that anxiety or that depression or whatever it may be. Make a plan so that you're not in the same place that you are now in the future, right? So I'm just going to read a little bit from Responding Mindfully versus Reacting. It's stressful to our psyches and to our bodies when we vehemently react to something rather than peacefully respond. When we react, we usually go into fight or flight mode, which increases stress in our body. If we're able to take a step back from our reaction to not be hooked into whatever is going on, we can respond in a more mindful way. All right, so that is your gem for today. Thank you again for all of our supporters. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Of course, we appreciate and accept all feedback. If there is any topics or any people, any entrepreneurs, artists, and creatives that you would have us or that you would like to see on our platform, please send them our way. We are definitely looking for some more features, so we appreciate any suggestions, any referrals. I am your host, Intelexx, founder and CEO of Intelexx Artrepreneur Agency, the ND for artists. We connect artists, entrepreneurs, and creatives, as well as businesses, with experts, networks, and platforms to promote your unique artistry. So we are here to serve you, and we do that to the best of our abilities by giving you what we have on here, on our other platforms. So, you know, I appreciate your time, and that is all that we have for you today. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, y'all, have a great day.